Okay, welcome back to this 2022 W990 log truck. This, I guess, will be episode 2 or part 2 of trying to get this truck put together, make it a log truck. Hopefully you checked out part 1 where we were working on the head rack and the truck bunk. I stripped everything off because I'm gonna go ahead and get everything sandblasted and painted, so that's why that stuff's missing. But right now I wanted to work on the rear mud flaps. Okay, they are chrome and then they're spring loaded, so I wanted to show how these go together. Oh, and they have the light cup on the side already welded on, and then they give you these little brackets here that bolt on the frame. And then I make my own. I don't know if they sell these. I never asked the parts guy, but these are, I cut out of a piece of mud flap, and then I put these in between the hangers. That way that spring-loaded mud flap, there's kind of like the rubber acts as like an isolator between that and the frame. So they're pretty simple. These here, I drill this bracket out, this hole, this third hole. I drill that out because I put a this quick disconnect wire, this thing, I run these on the flaps, so that way if you had to take the flap off, there'd be a quick disconnect. So this, I drill that hole out here so that this will go through it, so that way finished product, this connector will be inside the frame in this area somewhere, and then if you need to take the flap off, you just unplug it and then take the flap down. All right, so I'll show you how these go on. So there's this bracket, this rubber grommet or rubber like pad, and I just use a 1/2-inch bolt, and then we'll just put those babies through there like that. Nuts on the back, and we'll tighten it up. You don't have, I don't get them super tight, but tight enough. It looks like my rubber here I'm gonna have to trim, or she'll go through there. All right, so once you get that bracket on, then we'll just take our flap hanger, and then you hook the spring in there, and then you'll push down on this and we'll pull this piece of metal out, and then you lift back up. So you hook it like so, and then push down. There you go. There's under quite a bit of tension, and then just throw these in your toolbox in case you got to take these off. On the side of the road, you can put the pin in the spring and take the flat bar off. So next I'm going to work on wiring them. They just put a little 2-inch beehive light here, and then I run some some decent wire, like shielded 2-wire inside the mud flap, because these always seem to short out after a while. It's always something. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end with the mud flap. All right, well, I went ahead and got the mud flap on and the light in. Here, check this out. Dang, I love those KW mud flaps. They're pretty freaking cool. So yeah, this one's done. I haven't wired the flap yet. The wire's just in it. And then when you put these on, make sure that this wire that runs through here doesn't get pinched when you tighten down the mud flaps. I always pull this your end light out and kind of pull it back and forth as you're tightening up the flap bolts, because a lot of times it'll get pinched when you squeeze this together. So just a little tip, but if you didn't know. So yeah, that's looking pretty cool. I still have the other side to do, so we'll get that done. But yeah, I really like those Kenworth mud flaps. They're sweet. And I forgot to mention on these mud flaps, they are touching the ground right now, but there is no air in the airbags. So once we get air in the truck, they'll be back up off the ground. So just wanted to mention that so nobody was worried. But this damn truck don't hold air but overnight. So that's one thing that I'm a little mad about, is the air leaks on it. It's brand new. It shouldn't leak air, but I guess that's the way she goes. All right, so I'm going to start working on this light bar. I already got it mounted to the frame. Yeah, goes the U-bar. What do we got? 9 holes, I guess. So I'm going to have these here will be red, so these will be brake turns, and then these will be backup lights, and then just 3 marker lights. I got a painted one this time. I had a chrome one on the other truck, and then they were on back order, so I just went ahead and they had some of these that were metal, so I just went ahead and got one of those and painted it. I think it looks just as good as the chrome, to be honest. So that's what I'm going to do with that. I put a little reflector here, and then I'm going to put a like a 3/4 hole here for one of those flush mount 3/4 lights that I'll put in. And then I got this U-bar from General Trailers Sales there. My guys come from Reading, but they're over, I think their main office is Springfield, Oregon, and they sell a lot of logging equipment and parts and all that. But I got the U-bar from them, and then they had these a wire harness made specifically for those U-bars. I think it's made by Sealco, and so this is pretty slick. So yeah, this will make wiring up that U-bar a cinch. So anyway, that's gonna go in there, and then I got a bag full of lights, brand new lights, that I'll put in there. And then this harness, like I said, I'm gonna put a 7-way junction box, but I'm just gonna make a couple brackets and mount it right here. That's what I'm thinking. And then I'll run that harness up to that junction box, and then the little harness that I'm going to make for the tail lights, it'll go in and it'll plug in there. So this is the stock tail lights that they had here on the back of the frame. So I took that off. I disassembled all the lights out of it. I'm going to sandblast and paint this white, and then I will end up putting it, I think I'm just going to bolt it right to the bottom of that cross member. And then that way I'll have a place for license plate. And then if I ever do cut the frame off, I'll already have some tail lights there. So yeah, that's the plan for that. And along that, with the factory, let's see here, here it is. It has this plug. So that plugs into those factory tail lights. What I'm gonna do, I'm going to put like a 7-way junction box up there towards the back of the frame, but I have an old harness here that fits this. So what I'm going to do is just cut this down. I'll plug this into the truck lights, the factory plug, and then this will plug into the lights. I'll make it real short, and then I'm going to tee off of it, and then that'll feed my junction box that I'll mount under the truck. That way I don't have to cut any wires. Cut and splice. I'll cut and splice here on this harness, but nothing on the truck harness. That way the truck harness stays intact. That's what I'm trying to get across. I don't know if I explained it correctly, but that's what I'm going to do. All right, so here I got the light bar. Got that light bar all finished. I'm still going to put a like a load light bar underneath there for loading. And then this is I made this plate there for my glad hands, and then the trailer light plug, and then this is the plug for the trailer scales. So yeah, it looks good. I got it all plumbed up, and I must have spent about, I think about 5 hours messing with this wiring and plumbing, trying to get it ran nicely, secured. And then I put a junction box here, and I did make a little jumper, like a jumper harness. So I had that spare harness there, and I cut it down, teed it off, so I feed the box through this little harness, so I didn't cut any of the factory wires. So I think everything's pretty well secured. I think the flap lights, all the lights are working. All right, next on the agenda are these frame steps. They're a 12-inch ProTech double step, and I went with those because I only needed to drill one hole in the frame. There's 2 holes here for the cross member, and then they had a reflector mounted on this hole. So all I had to do was drill one hole here, and then that allowed me to put those steps on. So same on the driver's side. So that would pretty much made my mind up on those. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt those up on there, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're installed. Okay, there's the frame step installed. The longest part of this process is waiting for the paint to dry on the bolts. But yeah, the bolt holes are pretty far to this edge of the step, but it's on there, and then I think it'll be fine. And I like it just because I only had to drill one hole, that I was able to use some existing holes. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the other one on the other side, and that stuff, or this part will be checked off the list, so it'll be on to something else. All right, today I've been working on these doggone half fenders, and they've been I've been struggling with these. I bought couple different sets of mounts, and I just haven't had any that I don't know that I liked. And some of them you have to drill a lot of holes in the frame, and I didn't want to do that. So anyway, this is what I've come up with is so we got the half fender, and then I got this Hodge built front mount that goes on the post. So that'll bolt to the half fender for the front mount. And everything's looking pretty good. They fit on there pretty decent. This is with air all the way up. And then on the back, I went with a Merit easy mount, and this is a 10-inch. They make in 4, 8, and 10s, and I got a 10-inch bracket here. So this is what it's mocked up here. I'm got a I don't know if you can see here, but there's a little gap on this piece of metal from this bracket. So I made a little spacer here, that way it says in the directions to make sure this has full contact to the frame. So I got a little bracket made, waiting on paint to dry as usual. Just waiting on paint to dry. It's holding up the progress. But yeah, that's what it looks like mocked up. I struggled pretty mightily up here marking the holes. They don't give you a template for this front mount. So what I ended up doing, maybe I'll film this on the other side, because I haven't done the other side, but I taped some paper to it and then marked the holes, and I put the bracket all together and then rolled this back so I knew how to mark it. But I think I'll film that. All right, so I got the fender on. This is the passenger side here, finally. These things have been really messing with me, but they're on. So I figured I'd show you what I did on the driver's side. Now that I got that one figured out, this one hopefully will go better. So the post mount is what I'm going to use, and I cut about 2.5 inches off of it. So we cut that off to make the fender fit. And then I took the center bolt out of the suspension. That's where we're gonna put the rear support, and then I made a little spacer here so that that's flat because this sticks down. I'm using a Merit 569. It's a 10-inch up to a 10-inch adjustable height rear mount. Single bolt will go through the frame, and then it has some plates here. This bolts to your half fender here, and then it has clamps that you clamp to this tube. On my other truck, I made my brackets myself. This time I thought I would try to just purchase something. I was thinking it might be better. That way, if they were to get damaged or anything, I can just go get another one and replace it instead of having to refab something up. All right, got our center bracket in here, snugged up. To give you this plate, goes here, and the fender will sit on top. So we're gonna put the fender on next. All right, I think I finally got this mess of a half fender figured out. All right, so on the other side, this bracket here was really messing with me. It's a Hogue built bracket, but they don't give you a template for the holes on the other side to drill into your fender. So I was, you know, scratching my head. Took me forever to figure it out. So I finally ended up taking some paper on the other side. So I taped this paper to this, and then I marked the holes. So I cut the holes out of the paper on the other side. So what I'm going to do now is we'll just fold this paper back and I'll tape it to the fender. So I just peel this tape up off this paper, and I got some thicker paper this time. Yesterday I used some thinner paper, so we'll just take that and then we'll just tape this to the fender. And then when I pull this bracket off, my holes should be where they need to be. All right, now that I got my paper on here, we'll go ahead and take this bracket off, and then there you go. That will be all of our holes for that bracket. So let's take my Sharpie, mark those, and then we will drill them out. So yeah, that worked okay for me. Like I said, if anybody has some ideas or have more experience with these half fenders and mounting them, yeah, let me know how you guys do it, because this is only the second set I've ever put on a truck, and man, it's just been a time killer. All right, so on the back side here, there are 4 holes in this plate. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those underneath with a Sharpie, and it looks like I put the vice grips over one, so I'll have to move that. Well, let's mark the center with those, and then I'll know where to drill that back plate. And then once those are marked, and then we've got the front ones marked, we can take this back off and drill it. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get this fender drilled out, and then when I get it back up on here, I'll tune you back in. Okay, she's sitting up on the tires now. None of these brackets are tight. Just everything kind of just loose till I get it where I want it. On these back mounts, you got this little strap here that goes around this pipe, and it's got 2 9/16 bolts or 3/8 bolts to go through there, and then that clamps down to this pipe. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so this fender is on. It's pretty solid. This back here, the bolt on the inside of the frame, and it is a son of a gun to get to, because now that the half fender's on, we've got another problem to fix, which I didn't even pay attention to. So bunk pin fits okay here, but when you put it in the holder, it's hitting the fender. So what I think I'll do, I'm gonna cut this piece of pipe off and we'll just turn it this way so that I can get the pin to sit like this. That's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and probably just pull the bunk off so I can do some welding there. All right, so I got the fenders on finally. I'm still gonna put a mud flap. I'm gonna stand a piece of mud flap up here. I put a little bracket there. I'm gonna stand a piece up between the fender and the bunk. That way it'll catch some of the stuff going forward from the rear tire. But yeah, I'm not as happy with this one as that one, but it's on there and it looks pretty good. All right, I think that's gonna do it for part 2 of this W990 log truck build. What I think I'll do is finish up all the stuff that I've got to do. I got to put a deck plate on, put my toolbox up here, and get some load lights up on the head rack up there. But I think I'll just go ahead and do all that stuff, and when I get everything done, then I'll do another little walk around video of the truck outside with a little more room. It's hard to do it inside the shop here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So go ahead and let me know what you think of this project so far. And thanks for sticking with me. I know it was a long time between videos, so I appreciate that. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.